The Georgia sun, usually a benevolent golden presence, felt like a harsh, unforgiving spotlight on the morning Kim Zolciak Biermann received the papers. They lay on the polished marble counter of her sprawling mansion, crisp and official, yet screaming a word that felt alien, an intrusion in the perfectly curated world she and Kroy had built. Divorce. It wasn't a whisper, not a slow, agonizing slide into oblivion. It was a sudden, deafening crack, like a perfectly sculpted ice sculpture shattering into 1,000 jagged pieces. For years, their love story had been the fairy tale, the improbable union of a glamorous reality TV star and a stoic, devoted NHL player. Their don't-be-tardy life, as documented for millions, was a vibrant tapestry of shared laughter, chaotic family life with 6 children, and an undeniable spark that seemed to defy the usual Hollywood expiration date. But fairy tales, Kim was learning, had a dark side, a side where the glass slipper no longer fit and the prince's armor began to rust. The initial shock was a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. She picked up the document, her fingers trembling slightly, tracing the bold print of Kroy's name, then hers, intertwined for so long, now being meticulously untangled. It wasn't just a legal document, it was the epitaph of a decade. She remembered the day they met, almost 16 years ago, at a charity event. She, vivacious and loud, a whirlwind of blonde wigs and bold opinions. He, a towering figure of quiet strength, his eyes holding a depth that immediately drew her in. It was an instant connection, a feeling she hadn't anticipated, especially not with a football player. He's different, she told her friends, a giddy schoolgirl crush blossoming in the heart of a seasoned reality star. Kroy, for his part, had been smitten by her unbridled energy and genuine warmth beneath the larger-than-life persona. He'd embraced her 2 daughters as his own, and together they built a family, adding 4 more children to their lively brood. Their life together had been a whirlwind. From the early days of Kroy adopting Brielle and Ariana, a move that solidified his commitment in a way few others could understand, to the birth of KJ, Cash, Kaya, and Kane, their home was always filled with laughter, arguments, and the beautiful chaos of a large blended family. Cameras had captured much of it, turning their private moments into public spectacles, yet somehow their bond seemed to thrive under the scrutiny. Or so it seemed. The cracks, if she was honest, had been there, subtle at first, like hairline fractures on a precious vase. The financial pressures, for one, the lavish lifestyle, while entertaining to watch, came with immense upkeep. Kroy's football career had ended, and while they had other ventures, the constant need to maintain appearances, to keep up with the Joneses, and their own brand, had taken its toll. Late-night discussions about bills turned into hushed arguments, then stony silences. Then there was the shifting dynamic. Kim, ever the entrepreneur, was always hustling, always seeking the next big opportunity. Kroy, while supportive, grew increasingly withdrawn, a shadow of the engaged, playful partner he once was. He'd often retreat to the study, immersed in his own world, leaving Kim to navigate the relentless demands of reality TV, brand deals, and a house full of children. She missed his presence, his grounding force, the way he used to look at her as if she were the only woman in the world. The last few months had been particularly brutal. The constant bickering over trivial matters, who left the light on, why a bill hadn't been paid, whose turn it was to discipline a child, had escalated. The easy camaraderie had evaporated, replaced by a brittle politeness that felt colder than outright hostility. They'd become strangers sharing a roof, a family name, and a history that now felt distant, almost mythical. Kim picked up her phone, her thumb hovering over Brielle's contact. How will you tell your children that the very foundation of their lives, the solid rock of mom and dad, was crumbling? Brielle, already an adult, would understand the complexities, but the younger ones, Kaya and Kane, still so innocent, still believing in forever. The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through her. She walked through the silent house, each room echoing with ghosts of happier times. The large open-plan kitchen where Kroy used to cook their favorite meals, his strong hands expertly chopping vegetables. The living room where they cuddled on the oversized couch, watching movies with the kids piled around them. The master bedroom, once their sanctuary, now felt like a memory pierced through her grief. The night of their anniversary, just a few months ago, she had tried to rekindle the flame, a romantic dinner, just the two of them. Kroy had been distracted, checking his phone, his answers clipped. When she pressed him, he'd simply said, "I'm tired, Kim. It's just a lot." The words had hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. It wasn't just fatigue, it was a deeper weariness, a resignation. She had fought, of course. Kim Zolciak didn't back down easily. She tried counseling, suggesting they talk things out, address the issues. Kroy had agreed, but his participation felt half-hearted, his eyes often distant, his responses vague. It was like trying to patch a dam with a thimble while the water roared through. Then came the fights, louder and more frequent, no longer just hushed whispers but full-blown shouting matches that reverberated through the mansion, occasionally catching the attention of worried children. They were fighting about everything and nothing, the arguments serving as mere vessels for the larger, unspoken pain of two people drifting irrevocably apart. Financial woes were often the overt reason, but beneath it lay a chasm of unmet emotional needs, eroded trust, and the crushing weight of public expectations. The decision to separate had been Kroy's. He had sat her down, his face unreadable, and calmly stated that he couldn't do it anymore. "I need out, Kim," he'd said, his voice devoid of emotion, which hurt more than anger. "This isn't healthy for us, or for the kids." Kim had raged, she had pleaded, she had cried, but his resolve was unshakable. He had already moved into a separate wing of the house, a symbolic demarcation line drawn through their shared life. The papers were merely the official stamp on what had already become a chilling reality. Now she stood alone, the house silent save for the hum of the refrigerator. The reality of it all settled heavily in her chest. The lavish lifestyle, the public persona, the carefully constructed image, it all felt fragile, on the verge of collapsing. She was Kim Zolciak, the survivor, the phoenix who always rose from the ashes. But this felt different. This felt like a deep, soul-shattering tremor. She knew the headlines would be brutal. The speculation would run rampant. Every public move, every social media post would be scrutinized. "The fairy tale is over," they'd scream. "Another reality TV marriage bites the dust." But it was more than just a headline. It was her life, her family, her future. A fresh wave of tears blurred her vision, not just for herself, but for her children, who would now navigate the choppy waters of a broken home. She had always promised them stability, a loving, intact family. How could she face them? Then, a flicker of something deep within her. Resilience. That was the core of Kim Zolciak. She had faced adversity before, rising from humble beginnings to create an empire. This was another challenge, perhaps the biggest one yet, but she would face it. She would protect her children. She would rebuild. The first step was the hardest, accepting the inevitable. The second, telling her children. The third, navigating the treacherous landscape of divorce court, media scrutiny, and the daunting task of reshaping her life. She took a deep breath, the paper still clutched in her hand. The sun was higher now, its glare still intense, but she felt a subtle shift within her. The initial shock was fading, replaced by a cold, hard determination. The fairy tale was over, yes, but a new story was beginning. A story of resilience, of reinvention, of a mother fiercely protecting her brood amidst the rubble of a shattered dream. And perhaps, just perhaps, a story where Kim Zolciak Biermann, for the first time in a long time, would truly find herself not just as a reality star, but as a woman, a mother, and a survivor. The unraveling was painful, but the weaving of a new future had just begun.